Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Pak Fuad Abdullah as the lecturer of the FFG course and all my beloved friends. Welcome to Group 1 presentation. I hope you're in a good condition. I'm Resviana with ID number 202122001. Will be your moderator for today's presentation. And then the topic that we are going to discuss today is about mood system. But firstly, let me introduce our members of the team. Alright, totally we have 6 members. The first one is me, Resviana, and then the second one is Raisa, Janu, Afifa. Next one is Haifa Nurlistyaningsih, and then we have Andika, Fasya, Saefuloh, and then Rifaldi, and the last one is Fatih Amanullah. Alright, before we go any further, let me give you some overview about what we are going to discuss in this presentation. So here we have 4 subtopics. The first one is the clause as an exchange, and then the second one is the mood element, and the next one is about residue. The last one is about mood types. Alright, without any further ado, let's begin our presentation with the first presenter. Here I invite Raisa, Janu, Afifa to explain about the clause as an exchange. Raisa, please.
Thanks to moderator who has given me a chance to present this material. Alright, the clause as an exchange. Clauses simultaneously encode 3 strands of meaning. They are additional meanings. Meanings about things and ideas are released in the clause by option from transitivity, processes, participants, and circumstances. Jadi, makna dari additional meanings yaitu makna tentang hal-hal dan gagasan yang diwujudkan dalam klausa dengan opsi dari transitivitas yaitu proses, peserta, dan keadaan. Next, the second is textual meanings. Those which make language contextually and contextually relevant are released in lexicogrammar through thematic and information system as well as through cohesion. Jadi, makna dari tekstual itu yaitu yang membuat bahasa menjadi lebih relevan secara kontekstual maupun kontekstual. Juga diwujudkan dalam lexicogrammar melalui sistem tematik dan informasi serta melalui kohesi atau keserasian. The last is interpersonal. These interpersonal meanings are released in the lexicogrammar through selection from the system of mood, and mood is a system offering the choices declarative, interrogative, and imperative. So, makna interpersonal ini diwujudkan dalam lexicogrammar melalui seleksi dari sistem mood. Lalu, apa sih itu mood? Mood adalah sistem yang menawarkan pilihan deklaratif, interrogative, dan juga imperative. Next, if a speaker gives you some information as we're trying to do now, he or she is inherently inviting you to receive that information. Maksudnya, jadi ketika pembicara memberi kita informasi, maka dia secara langsung itu mengundang kita untuk menerima informasi tersebut. The second is, if as a speaker he or she offers you some goods or some services, the speaker is inherently inviting you to receive those goods and services. Jadi, ketika pembicara tersebut menawarkan barang kepada kita, menawarkan barang ataupun jasa kepada kita, maka dia secara langsung mengundang kita untuk menerima tawaran tersebut. And then, or if he or she demands information of you, inherently you are invited to give that information. Jadi, jika dia memerintah atau meminta informasi kepada kita, maka kita harus memberikan informasi tersebut kepadanya. And the last is, and if he or she demands some goods or services of you, you are to be invited to render that service or provide the goods. Jadi, jika dia meminta beberapa barang ataupun jasa kepada kita, maka kita diundang untuk memberikan layanan tersebut atau untuk menyediakan barang tersebut. Next is combination of options. In that mood, there are two kinds of actions. First is giving and the second is demanding. So, giving means to give information and demanding is to ask the information. Lalu, apa yang ditukarkan dalam hal ini? Yang ditukarkan dalam hal ini adalah informasi yang disampaikan dari melalui bahasa tersebut. In giving information, there are two types, namely offer and statement. First is offer. If we offer goods and services, it is called an offer, that is offering. For example, would you like some coffee? Or have some coffee? Itu merupakan tindakan dari offering, because we show how we offer someone a product. The product is that coffee. The second is information. Information, also called a statement, because what is exchange is information. And it is also called a giving statement. For example, I drink coffee every morning. This is a statement because it purports to inform those who don't know that I drink coffee every morning, or what do I drink every morning? That is coffee. Nah, tindakan tersebut merupakan kegiatan sharing informasi dari orang yang awalnya tidak tahu, kemudian menjadi tahu. Next is demanding or demand. Demanding means to asking. The action of demand is a command and a question. In the command, there are three types, namely suggestive, invitation, and recommendation. For example, let's get some coffee, shall we? That includes demanding, because we try to invite the others to drink coffee with us. That is included in the invitation for suggestion and recommendation. And then there is also what is called coercive. Coercive means paksaan. For example, make me some coffee. This sentence is a form of command, but a command that can't be refused. And the last is questions. For example, what is your favorite drink? We ask to him what his favorite drink, and if he answers our question, then we get information about his favorite drink. The last material is some description of addressing. There are four: offer, command, statement, and questions. The first is offering. When we offer to others, there are two choices: accepted or rejected. And next is command. Command means perintah. Itu bisa dilakukan ataupun bisa ditolak, undertaking or refuse. For example, if we are given an assignment from the lecturer, there are two choices, whether to do it or not. It goes into commanding. 3 is stating or statement. In this case, stating is acknowledge, mengakui, and contradict, bertentangan. For example, there is one friend who won the Pilma Prize or pemilihan mahasiswa berprestasi di Universitas Siliwangi. For people who agree, they will say they are agree. But for people who don't like it, then will say they don't agree or refuse it. And the last is question or questioning. For example, when someone asks a question, then there are two choices: answer the question or disclaim to don't answer the question.
Thank you, Raisa, for your explanation. So we'll move to the second presenter. It is me, myself, who will deliver about the mood element. Alright, here I want to explain about the mood element. But firstly, let's define what is meant by the mood. So mood is a system through which interpersonal meanings are realized within the conversation. So mood is the tool to analyze the interpersonal meaning in the conversation. I'm sure that you all have known about the interpersonal meaning because my friend Raisa has explained it before. Alright, for the mood itself, it has two elements or two parts. The first one is subject, which is realized by a nominal group, and then the second one is the finite element, which is part of the verbal group. And we will discuss it more details later. Alright, and then here I have the example of the subject and finite. For example, I didn't. I as a subject, didn't as a finite. So the combination of subject and finite is called mood. Alright, and then the remainder of each clause, it means things that not included in subject and finite, is called by the residue. Here you can see the example. It wasn't Michael. It as a subject, wasn't as a finite, and Michael as the residue. And then for that will never come off here. That as a subject will never as a finite and come off here as the residue. And we will also discuss it later in this presentation about the residue and the other part. Alright, let's go to the first element of the mood. It is the subject. As you can see here, the subject is realized by nominal group. So what is mean by nominal group? It is a group of words which can function as a subject and complement in a clause, and then act as a complement of a prepositional phrase. And we can say that subject is a person or thing performing the action in a sentence. For example, pandas eat bamboo. If you ask a question here, who eats the bamboo? So the answer is panda, because panda is performing the action, that is eat. As well as in the second sentence or the second example, I will make some toast. If you ask the question, who makes some toast? The answer is I performing the action, make toast. Alright, the second element of the mood is the finite. So the finite is part of verbal group realized by tense, modality, and polarity. Let me change it to bahasa. Jadi finite itu kata kerja yang berkaitan atau menunjukkan waktu atau tense, modality, dan polarity. Jadi tidak semua verb itu termasuk ke dalam finite. Mari kita lihat contohnya. Di sini saya mencontohkan dengan kalimat it was raining yesterday. It as a subject, was as a finite, and raining yesterday as the residue. So kenapa was di sini dikatakan sebagai finite? Karena was itu menunjukkan tense atau waktu. Jadi itu adalah simple past tense yang menunjukkan bahwa kejadian hujan ini terjadi di kemarin. Alright, let's continue our discussion about finite, about tense, modality, and polarity. Alright, about tense or primary tense. It can mean past, present, or future at the moment of speaking, and now as the reference. Or for the example, that special order came yesterday. So here the finite came indicates the tenses or the time yesterday, even though yesterday is excluded from the sentence atau dihilangkan dari kalimat ini, kita akan tetap tahu bahwa permintaan itu datangnya kemarin karena penggunaan came ini. Kan untuk di present itu kita menggunakan come, sedangkan untuk di past kita menggunakan came. Alright, the next one is modality. Modality indicates the speaker's judgment of the probabilities or the obligation involved in what he or she is saying. So, as we know, there are a lot of modal that we have learned before, and here's the example. The special order may come tomorrow, and then it had better, may and had as the modal. And then for the last one is polarity. Polarity bisa diartikan sebagai polar atau kutub, and it has a positive and negative side. Alright, and for the example, for the positive one, there is a unicorn in the garden. Is indicates positive, and then for the negative one, there is no life in Mars. No is indicate negative. So that's all. The verb that shows tenses and then modality and polarity, it is categorized as the finite. Alright, I think that's all for me. Thank you very much and sorry for the mistake. I give it back to the moderator. Alright, now we will move to the next presenter. It is Haifa and Andika who will deliver about the residue. For Haifa and Andika, the time is yours.
Hello everyone, I'm Haifa Nurlistyaningsih with my ID number is 202122023. I will explain about residue and predicator. The first is residue. Holiday says that the residue consists three kinds of functional elements. They are predicator, complement, and adjunct, which can be present one by one or present in a sentence. Let us begin with the first clause about Henry Ford. Henry Ford built his first car in his backyard. Henry Ford as a subject, built as a finite or predicator, his first car as a complement, and in his backyard as a adjunct. This clause displays a typical pattern of elements in the residue, namely predicator, complements, and adjuncts. The second is predicator. Giroud and Wignall, in making sense of functional grammar, give statement that the predicator is the verb part of the clause, the bit which tells what's doing, happening, or being. Higgins and Slade state the predicator encodes the action or process involved in the clause. It gives content to verbal element of the preposition, telling listeners what is or was happening. Thus, the predicators in the above five clauses are build, proceed, move, reverse, have been, and start to use. There are also non-finite, is to plus verb and plus ing. Clause containing a predicator but no finiter element. For example, giving Henry more room, giving as a predicator, Henry as a complement, and more room as a complement. Maybe that's all I can say. I return it to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you for moderator for giving me a chance to explain about the next material. So the first material that I will explain is about complement. Complement is a second component of the residue. A complement is defined as a non-essential participant in the clause, a participant somehow affected by the main argument of the proposition. The complement answers the question is or had what, to whom, and did to what. It is identified as an element within the residue that has the potential of being subject but is not. For example, Henry Ford built his first car in his backyard. His first car answers the question did to what, and this question is referred to word built. In the clause his first car Henry Ford built in his backyard, his first car is still complement, despite the different word order in the clause, because it is answers the question did to what. So his first car as a complement, Henry Ford as a subject, and then built as finite and predicate, and the last is in his backyard as adjunct. A complement can get to be subject through the process of making the clause passive. For example, in the sentence Henry James wrote the Bostonians. Henry James as a subject wrote as finite and predicate, and the Bostonians as complement. And this sentence is clause active. So we turn into clause passive. The Bostonians was written by Henry James. So the Bostonians change from complement into the subject, was as finite, written as predicator, and by Henry James as adjunct. The final constituents that we need to describe are adjuncts. Circumstantial adjuncts answer the question how, when, where, by whom, or it may refer to time as probed with when, place as where, cause as why, matter as about what, accompaniment as with whom, beneficiary as to whom, and agent as by whom. For example, Henry Ford built his first car in the backyard of his home. In the backyard of his home is adjuncts, answering the question where. Another example, the symphony was played badly by an amateur orchestra during a concert Saturday night at the Performing Arts Center. Badly is an adjunct, answering the question how. By an amateur orchestra is an adjunct, answering the question by whom. During a concert and Saturday night are adjuncts, answering the question when. At the Performing Arts Center is an adjunct, answering the question where. These are called circumstantial adjuncts. Circumstantial adjuncts add additional content to the clause by expressing some circumstance relating to the process represented in the clause. The two which fall outside of mood structure are conjunctive adjuncts and command adjuncts. Conjunctive adjuncts include such items as, for instance, anyway, moreover, meanwhile, therefore, nevertheless, etc. And then command adjuncts include such items as frankly, apparently, hopefully, broadly speaking, understandably, to my surprise, etc. They express interpersonal rather than textual meanings, but fall outside of mood residue structure. Command adjuncts express the speaker's comment on what he or she is saying. For example, in the sentence, unfortunately, however, they were too late. Unfortunately, as command adjuncts. However, as conjunctive adjunct, they were as subject and finite, too late as complement. The principal items functioning as mood adjuncts include the following. First, adjunct of polarity and modality. It is include polarity, such as not, yes, no, so, and then probability, such as probably, possibly, certainly, perhaps, and maybe. Next, usuality, such as usually, sometimes, always, never, ever, seldom, rarely, etc. And then readiness, such as willingly, readily, gladly, certainly, easily, etc. And the last is obligation, such as definitely, absolutely, possibly, at all costs, by all means, etc. So the second item is adjuncts of temporality, such as time, there are, yet, still, already, once, soon, just, etc. And typically, such as occasionally, generally, regularly, mainly, etc. And the last is adjuncts of mood, such as obviousness, there are of course, surely, obviously, clearly, etc. Then intensity, such as just, simple, merely, only, even, actually, really, etc. And the last is degree, such as quiet, almost, nearly, scarcely, hardly, absolutely, totally, utterly, entirely, completely, etc. Thus, in the following, surely is analyzed as mood adjuncts and is included in the mood element. For example, in the sentence, surely he wasn't being serious. Surely as mood adjunct, he as subject, wasn't being as finite and predicate, and serious as complement. I think that is my explanation. I hope you can understand. Thank you. I give it back to the moderator.
Thank you, Haifa and Andika. So now we will move to our last subtopics. It is mood types who will be delivered by Rifaldi and Fatih. Please, the time is yours.
Thanks to moderators, I'm Rifaldi. Here I will explain about mood types. The mood in English grammar does not refer to emotion of action or anything like that. Instead, the mood of the verbs refer to whether or not something is a fact. The intention of the speaker or writer is understood by the mood of the verbs. There are two types of mood, namely is indicative mood and imperative mood. It can be seen that the indicative mood consists of declarative and interrogative, and the last interrogative consists of a polar question and WH question. Indicative mood is a form of verb that is used to make statements both fact and opinions. Besides that, The indicative mood can be used as a question. The first one is declarative mood. Declarative mood has the form is subject plus finite or finite plus subject. For example, the car had 4 bicycle wheels. The car as subject had as finite and 4 bicycle wheels as complement. And second, then come the production line. Then as predictor residue come as finite and the production line as subject. So that is for me. I'll return it to the moderator.
I would like to continue Rifaldi's explanation. Interrogative asks a question. A great way to remember the term interrogative is to think of an interrogation room where a suspect is asked a series of questions. Interrogative polar yes or no question is finite plus subject. This is the example from the interrogative. Imperative. Imperative is a command, a way of remembering. This is to think of your parents saying, "It's imperative that you do your chores." This is not a suggestion, a statement about what is going on, or a question. It is a direct command telling you what to do. In imperative, the mood element may consist of subject plus finite, subject only, finite only, or they may have no mood element. There will always be a predicator. Like this, don't you put it there, subject plus finite. Let's put it there, subject. Don't put it there, finite. Put it there, no subject or finite. Comments are variable in their realizations. Turn it down, imperative. Will you turn it down, please? Polar imperative. Offers also don't have a typical grammatical realizations. Have chocolate, imperative. That's all for me. Thank you very much. Go back to moderator.
Thank you, Fatih and Rifaldi. And then we come to the end of this presentation. Thank you all for your kind attention. I hope you can understand about the material. And you have any question, please don't be hesitate. You can ask it directly to us in the class meeting. So, see you in the class. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.